Hi, I'm Dr. Anthony Galzerano. I'm here at my office, Whiplash Chiropractor, which is located in the Roxborough section of Philadelphia. I want to speak to you today briefly about whiplash injuries and how they happen. Most of the whiplash injuries I see in my practice happen from rear-end collisions. People stop at a light, somebody hits them from behind. And usually most of the injury is to the neck, although it can happen in the lower back, especially if you already have a problem there. And whiplash injuries will generally cause more damage in areas where there's already a problem. Pretty obvious. So if you're sitting, say you're sitting in your car, you get hit from behind. What happens, and this is something that was found in recent research, isn't that your head just comes back, because that may just be within the normal range of motion of your neck and would not cause injuries. And of course, if you don't have injuries, that's great. But if you get hit, usually, and it can be a small fender bender, a lot of the research was done with just 8-mile-an-hour collisions and caused quite a bit of injury. If you get hit from behind, your head doesn't only go back, it comes straight back first and then goes back. And because it comes back a little bit first before it tilts back, you have, the joints are locked, and so you have much less range of motion. So when this happens, and we're talking about thousands of pounds of force as a car hits another car, and it happens within 0.2 of a second, the damage. So it's like if you get silly putty, you know, if you stretch it slowly, it stretches way out, but if you jerk it quickly, it breaks. Well, that's what happens to the muscle fibers and the ligament fibers in your neck when you get that sudden jolt. So you're sitting there and all of a sudden you get hit from behind, your head comes back, whips back. Now depending on whether you have your head restraint set in the right place, you may go over the top of it and cause more injury. So you should always have the head restraint or headrest up to about the middle part of your back when you're driving, the middle part of your neck when you're driving. Also, most of us, after we're driving for a while, tend to slump forward. That increases the distance to the head restraint, and sometimes the head restraint is basically useless because you've traveled so far to get to it, you've already had the injury happen. I have found these little wedges you can buy made of foam, and they strap onto the head restraint and they fill in that space, so you can, if you do lean forward, and most of us do, you'll go into the padding instead of into the air and dampen some of the force and not have as much injury. But that injury, where you whip back in 0.2 of a second, causes a lot of damage. It can cause strains to the muscles. A muscle strain doesn't sound like much, but there are different degrees of muscle strain. So you can have a muscle strain that actually rips the muscle right out of the bone. Of course, for that you need to go to the emergency room and you'll need surgery for that. So in my office, the way I treat these whiplash injuries is aggressively, with a lot of treatment within the first month. It's been found within the first 90 days, that's the window you have to really start to remobilize those joints that have gotten swollen and jammed. Otherwise, the injuries heal with thick scar tissue instead of thin scar tissue. You want the thin scar tissue, which is very flexible, as opposed to the thick scar tissue. That's the kind of scar tissue that allows you to tell the weather. You'll know when it's going to rain. Of course, you don't want that. You can also cause damage to the discs in your neck, which is more serious than a muscle strain, and you can cause damage to the nerves. Also, what happens often in a whiplash injury is a concussion. Now, in 50% of the concussions in whiplash injuries, there was no contact with anything. So the person did not hit his or her head. What happened is that the brain gets rattled in the spine. There's enough movement in there that it actually hits the inside of the skull. So you can have concussions, you can have nerve damage, you can have spinal cord injury. So even in the soft tissue injuries of whiplash, not the catastrophic ones where there's fractures in the bones, but in the soft tissue injuries, they can be very severe, and they always, to one extent or another, are permanent injury. The purpose of getting care immediately, and the reason that I'm very aggressive with people as injuries who have been in a whiplash injury, is that there's only a window of opportunity to get as much healing to happen as possible, so that again you'll get repair in there that will not cause impairment in your lifestyle, that will not cause you to lose your ability to do things because of the whiplash injury. So that's part of what happens in whiplash injury. I will be talking more about it in further videos. Thanks for listening.